Hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon. How is everybody doing today? How are we doing? How are we doing today? Another rage bait stream. Maybe. How are we doing though? How is everyone? How are you feeling on this fine Wednesday afternoon? How are we? We good? We doing okay? We stressed, we frustrated, we tired, all of that. Have a few things to talk about today. A few things we'll talk about today. It's been slow, hasn't it? It's been really slow, hasn't it? It's been really slow. I'm gonna try today to not get too worked up over things that I've already discussed on numerous occasions. Although I did find yesterday's video and live to be quite funny. I did find it to be quite fun. I really enjoyed yesterday. Um, it was a fun kind of discussion to have with everybody, even though I always appreciate different people's opinions on things, but I thought it was fun. I was enjoying myself. So yeah, look, we've got it was fun. You know, I started to get irritated and then I didn't. And then I was just enjoying myself after that. It was just fun to discuss, and I found something to be passionate about. Um yeah, I mean, look, we've got it's the 16th today. United play on Saturday for the first time. Um they travel in a week to the United States. They come over to my part. Um, I'm working on a potential thing there where I might be able to travel with, not like with the club, you know what I mean, but with the club to go see them in New York as well as Chicago, and to attend quite a few different things. I'm just waiting for the all clear on a couple of things there. So I'm actually pretty excited about that because there's going to be some. I mean, it'll be fun to do, but there's also cool content and things that I can make with that training, press conferences, um, all of that kind of stuff, as well as obviously the game itself and a lot of you meet a lot of interesting people with interesting things to say when you're out in person, on this kind of stuff, and so hopefully that'll be the case. But there will be videos, there will be lives, there will be all sorts of things because there's going to be plenty of stuff to do, out there, plenty of empty time, and yeah, that's like any media, like any media basically. I'm when I'm saying go with travel with the club, it's all the media. When you go to the U.S. tours to do the media, everybody's there. All the people you know from journalists' standpoint, from Laurie and well, the United journalists, Simon Stone and Laurie and Ducker, and the Paddock guys and the United View guys and all of them. So there'll be a lot of stuff over there. I'll do some in real life streams, sure, yeah, from the stadium and things like that. So a lot of cool
Should we
stuff that
stop
could come
trying
on
and
all of
wait for
that.
next year? Case, Maguire and others' departures providing financial space and not sure Mbeumo would change our season.
I don't think we would. We
Sorry, are
would.
you going to Atlanta?
No, there's no way I can do Atlanta. I don't think, because I think that that's the last stop. I can't do that long, but I'm trying to do some stuff in Chicago before, because they're gonna go to Chicago first and then go out to New York for the day, go to that game, and then come back to Chicago. There'll be stuff there. Go to the Chicago game. I'll have to go home after that. Yeah, but no, I don't think I don't think we should stop trying. But I do, yes, Casemiro, Maguire, and other departures will provide financial space. No, it's my budget. I gotta pay for all of this. I literally have to pay for all of this. The only thing I don't have to pay for, if I go as media, is the tickets to the game itself. I go in as media and I go to the media room and follow the game as media. So that's the only thing. Otherwise, I have to pay for all this myself. It's you know, I don't have like a company. There's no like Telegraph or Athletic or any media agency that pays me to is gonna pay for my travel. So it's all gonna have to be self-funded, unfortunately, which is rough. But yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, but it's cool. The opportunities is worth it to me. It's cool. It's really great. So we did it the last couple of years. Did at least one game, both of the last 2 seasons out here in the States, and it was really super useful. And I'll be, getting it. We'll do it again this year, but I'm trying to do it as a slightly longer trip because I only went for like a day or two last time. So I'm trying to do longer so I can attend more of the things and meet more people and do all that kinds of stuff as well. But all right, let's get to what we want to talk about yet. Hopefully, I get like everything all cleared soon. It's not a matter of the club or anything like that. I'm waiting to get from the stadiums and things like that, the clearance and all of that, so I'm all good there. Anyway, yes, let's start kind of with Mbeumo, because there was a couple interesting stories this morning that I think were got to be TTS overload to cover this. Yeah, it's going to cost, I mean, literally thousands of dollars for me to do all this travel. So I always appreciate the support, the donations, and things like that as well. It means a lot. But yeah, we're got some interesting stories on Mbeumo. I think to a large degree, it was just kind of catching up with things more than anything else. I think it was catching up to where we were today. The story that was the most accurate, if you follow my information, at least as far as I know, came from Jamie Jackson this morning on Brian Mbeumo. What he said there was that as of the end of June, we were ready to bid 65 million. Now, I said that I think it was that Sunday or Monday that that I said, hey, we're lining up a bid. We're ready to do one that we think is going to get a deal done. You remember that? It was right at the end of June. Where was it? It was the 29th of June, 30th of June was the day I did some videos and spoke about that exactly. And they said that, and I didn't name a price at that time, but I think it was in yesterday's or the day before, one of the recent videos this week, I said we were ready to do 65 million. And they changed the price on us. Well, this is essentially what Jamie Jackson's article says, that we were willing to do a 65 million bid for Mbeumo at that time. We had some more talks after the second bid. We were like, all right, we're really close now. 55 plus 7.5. We were almost there. We were super close. So we went up a couple million. It was close enough. Everything should have been good. And we were ready to do that. We spoke to them about it, and they said, no. Basically gave us the indication when we were about to do this that, actually we might want a bit more money at that point in time. And this is where things have completely stalled at this point in time, and where we've been sitting here like for the last couple of weeks. Like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this back a little. There we go. And then the reason my color changes on the camera is if I put my hand forward, it darkens, and then it messes with the color. So if I get too close to it. But regardless, it was correct. And then it's stalled since that point in time, because essentially we've been like, 70 million is a lot, but it's not even just the factor of 70 million. It's the factor of, if they keep changing the price on these things, then say we go up to 70 million, 65 plus 5, 62 plus 7, 60 plus 10. We do something like that. And then they say, well, 75 now. What's to say they don't? Because they've done it 2 separate occasions already. We believed initially the Cunha money, and then they were like, no, we actually want a little more than Cunha, so we gave them a little more than Cunha, or we were ready to, and they said more. And that is essentially the problem at this point in time. Now, our belief from the United perspective is that they will come down on the price a bit.
Smash
that
the
they
like
will.
eyes. Flexed biceps emoji. Flexed
Thank you.
biceps emoji.
Yes, thank you for that. Appreciate that reminder. Please do smash the like button. Destroy the like button. Beat up your monitor, right? No, but they'll. No worries, Stuart. Have a good evening. That they will come down on the price a bit. And this is where we also needed essentially 60 plus 5. That's what we've been ready to bid for 3 weeks. That's the problem. We've been ready to do a 60 plus 5 for 3 weeks. We did think it would do it. So, again, United there thinking, all right, the player perspective is what we kind of need here, because we need them to kind of nail down a bit of the deal so that we know exactly what the fee is, what the price is, and it doesn't get complicated.
Can't join now, will leaks and late a few queues. Brentford
Hamza.
bidding for Hutch mean progress. Why is Mateta quiet, hasn't signed new deal?
Right.
Watkins Garner swap discussed since both clubs register Ed's interest.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll talk about the Hutchinson thing in a second, then we can touch on Mateta, and we'll definitely get to the Watkins and Garnacho stuff here very shortly as well, and all the options for Garnacho. But we do need Mbeumo and his side to really kind of push things to an exact figure, an exact held onto things. And I think that, that's our strategy and approach to this, is that's what we need to do. That's what we want to do. And that's what should work to get the deal done. And the club essentially think eventually it will get the deal over the line. A couple of other factors in this that I've heard, and these are a little less solid, but they're just some things that I've heard in kind of addition to this, as trying to find out whatever I can. Is that if you see like the Gyökeres deal, even though that's still stalled at the moment, confusingly, there was thing like the agent giving up his percentage of the deal to help the price and things like that. There's some suspicion that, at least that I've heard from one individual, and it was not knocked down by somebody else, that, there's some suspicion that, Brentford are hoping for, I don't know what all the clauses are, right, in Mbeumo. Is there sell-ons to somebody else that we don't know about? Is the agent somewhere where he's going to get a big chunk of the fee, or the things like that? Are they pushing? So, he's got to request a transfer, so that someone has to do something, so that there is a, so that there's a, that some of the fee maybe that we would pay is due to go to somebody else. Is there some way that they can get us to, get that to drop, or to pay out less money, or, we don't know all the clauses that are in there, but it's definitely been, indicated to me that, Brentford might want something in there too, and that might be what they're pushing for, is so they get a bit more of the money. I don't know how certain that is, but again, in a similar thing to, like, you look at that Gyökeres situation with his agent supposedly waiving the fee to help the deal and stuff like that, or to help one side of the deal or something. So, I don't know if that's exactly what they're looking for in the same exact thing, but could be, something like that. So, it's a complicated one. I mean, there's nobody's really, like, again, this is the reality of it. I think that what we need to do is, I mean, I don't know. We're not working on other things, and that's what we'll kind of get to in a minute, is all this striker stuff. And I think the view is essentially, why walk away? We've got a player convinced, who wants to join us, that's one of the most impactful and best players in the league that we can bring in, why walk away? Why not just, you expect where it's not far enough away, like it's still close enough despite the complications, where you're going to say, I mean, let's surely at some point here, Brentford nail the fee down and we get to just move on it. And, over time that one of those things will happen. Maybe they get Hutchinson in, as to that question. They get a strike, they get somebody they want in, they get a player in for decent money, they make their signing, and then they say, all right, fine, here's the exact fee, this is what we need to do.
If they make the situation crystal clear by actually putting the bid in, the player might be more likely to push. At the moment it's just speculation.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. I mean, we're at the same time, bear in mind that we're operating off of not necessarily what's within, but what we can see from the outside. We've put a couple bids in that have been rejected. Like, it may be a little more open and complicated than that. So, the point being is that I guess here's the point that I would look at on this, and this is where I personally go back and forth. Though I do believe that we need to move on to other signings and things like that as well at the same time, as I said. Our best business this summer is still get Cunha, get Mbeumo, get Garnacho out, and get a striker in. Other sales too, obviously. That's our best business this summer. I think where one of the reasons why they're not walking away from the deal is the sales and the Garnacho situation. Like, at the moment, we can't buy somebody else, right? So we would say, okay, well, let's walk away and go buy somebody else with the money, with that we would be spending on Mbeumo. But we have a couple of things. We've got, we've got obviously the Sancho situation, which is mixed in its reporting. We've got this, by the way, right here. Rashford still potentially moving forward to Barcelona. He says before the USA trip, interestingly. Very interested. He says we're not interested in Ekitike, by the way. I caught quite a bit of heat when I personally came out and said that one was really not a solid interest or transfer at all, but I said that pretty much the day the rumors came out, that one was really basic and was being played up way too much, is still being played up way too much by certain people. We're not in the race for Ekitike, and we haven't really been in the race for Ekitike at all. But that's one possibility, right? The Rashford situation being there, the Sancho situation being there, and then primarily as well, the Garnacho situation being there. That is a significant one, here. That this Garnacho situation is also, something that potentially, like again, if we can move, how would I put this? If we could move Garnacho off, or some of these sales off, then we can go for a striker without walking away from Mbeumo. You know what I'm saying? And so the ideal thing is that we move these sales anyway. We get one of these strikers done. Sorry about that. We get one of these. We keep working on an Mbeumo essentially. We get the striker done at the same time, which we can, without walking away from Mbeumo and just showing, like, look, we're willing to do deals, but we need to actually, like, move on other targets and things like that. And we don't necessarily have to walk away from Mbeumo to get a striker. If we can find a route for one of these players, like Sancho and Rashford and Antony, or if we can move on Alejandro Garnacho. Now, it just so happens, of course, it is an if here, but it just so happens that if we're looking at a deal for a couple of players, specifically, let's say Watkins and Nicholas Jackson, which I would say are two solid targets for United at this point in time. If we're looking at a deal for either of them, the talks are very likely going to involve Alejandro Garnacho. So if that's the case, we don't have to walk away from Mbeumo to do it. Because if Garnacho is involved in that, if we're doing a deal with Watkins or Nicholas Jackson, if we're doing a deal with Villa or Chelsea, then it should include Garnacho. That would be 100% the right move. So if we're talking about those strikers in particular, it would explain why we haven't pivoted and walked away from Mbeumo to get a striker done. Because if those are the strikers we're interested in, then, of course, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to walk away. We don't have to do something else. We can work on a deal that includes Garnacho going the other way and bringing somebody in. So that's kind of the interesting way that this could play out, where we don't have to walk away from Bryan Mbeumo in order to work on a striker and all of that. Now, the understanding that I have on this front is that there's been contact with both Villa and Chelsea. I don't think that's new news, but I do believe that both of them at this stage in time are aware of our interest in both those players of Jackson and Ollie Watkins, among others, by the way, at Chelsea, of course. But Jackson is definitely one we are interested in and watching, and that we would be. Are there two of them? That's so crazy, and that we would be willing to, involve Garnacho in a deal for that. So I believe that both clubs are aware of it. Both clubs are aware of our interest in it. Both clubs understand that we've opened the door to that. And both clubs so United can look at that and say, all right, we know there's an option kind of there. And that there's the ability to do this. So I think that's a part of the reason we haven't moved on specifically from Mbeumo at this point, is because we don't necessarily have to. The best deal we can make includes Jackson for one of those two players. Now, the difference here in this case is that I think both clubs are potentially willing sellers, right? So it's not so much a matter of they're just going to squeeze us for the best deal, because they also need to potentially sell a player, or maybe looking at selling a player. So that's why it's sort of ideal to work with both of these clubs. And on that front. Now, the other possibility, like we were saying yesterday, is that there could be a three-way type of situation with this, right? We know that, Jackson could go to Villa, Villa could sell us Watkins, and Watkins and Garnacho could go to Chelsea, and that might also work for everybody. It just depends on what kind of deal there. Now, the situation for us that would be the worst case, I think, would be Morgan Rogers goes to Chelsea and Garnacho goes to, or Jackson goes to Villa, because then we may not get anything. And we may not have a route for Garnacho or anybody, at this point in time. So a couple of, that wouldn't be great. So, but look, this is why we're seeing this type of stuff in the news today, because United, United do this, and when you start seeing these things pop up, essentially, I don't think Rodgers will go to Chelsea for what it's worth. I think there's no way they sell him, but when you start seeing the news pop up, Chelsea's still interested in Garnacho. Watkins is open to a move. Jackson being monitored. Premier League clubs are making contact for Nicholas Jackson and things like that, right? When you start seeing that stuff happening, that's generally because we're actually talking to people, and it's not just shit tier sources. It's good sources, good reporters in London and elsewhere who are kind of, spinning the wheels a little bit, and generally that means we're active and we're making contacts with them. Now, we have been, and as I said, we are talking about strikers. So it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure where I stand at this point, because I said today and yesterday, like, if we're not getting Mbeumo over the line, that I want us to pivot. I think we are pivoting, but that doesn't mean we really have to walk away from Mbeumo at the same time, which, if we're interested in clubs that are interested in Garnacho, kind of makes sense. If they weren't interested in Garnacho, we would have to walk away from Mbeumo because we wouldn't have any possibility of a deal at the same time. Either way, if we are now inquiring on strikers, talking about strikers, and exploring the possibilities of deals there, and working on other signings, which I believe we are, then it would strengthen our hand in the Mbeumo thing to say, that's why we're not in a rush. We'll just go see if we can get another deal done in the meantime and see where we're at, and that tells, Brentford, we're okay with waiting if they're going to hold to that until something happens, and then Mbeumo hopefully agitates and yada yada. But I mean, one way or another, if we're going to get 3 players in, we're going to need some sort of sale to happen. If we approach on the striker and we're making moves on the striker, and it turns out there's no route for Garnacho, then we'll have to say, okay, well, we can do a deal for a striker here. Are we doing it and walking away from Mbeumo and coming back if we sell? So yeah, because I think essentially, because we've got Mbeumo's commitment, we don't want necessarily to walk away. We just want to keep the pressure on the deal, essentially. So yeah, it's an interesting time, isn't it? It's a very, very interesting time to be a United fan in everything that's going on. Yeah, Mbeumo won't go to Spurs unless we fully walk away from that deal. So yeah, I know the reports on Jadon Sancho in Italy are at best confusing. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, they're confusing. The reports are really, really mixed. You keep getting everything going back and forth about, I don't know. You keep getting things going back and forth about, like, yeah, I don't know, about like whether there's actually anything from Italy or not. Like the DiMarzio seems to flip around every single day, so it's really hard to know exactly where things stand at the moment. You keep getting all these exclusives about that, about Juventus agreeing terms with the player, offering us £15 million. Yeah. Cardoso to Atletico now done, so you think Betis are desperate for Anthony, then it's going to ramp up. Well, that's the thing, right? If they if Anthony is back, in to the in Manchester to push a deal through, and Cardoso's just been sold, then it does seem that now would be the best time for that deal to happen. But wait, but who? No, wait. There was a good source, Yagiz, right? Who was that? Who said that? Because he's actually a very, very good source for info. Yagiz Savanchioglu, right? Yagiz. Um, Now we got that inter. Oh, here we go. What did he say in particular? Okay, here we go. This is actually a solid reporter. Um, I've said this before. This is actually a solid reporter. Um, this is actually a very, very good reporter, by the way. Yeah, he's a top Turkish journalist, and obviously he would be informed on this because of Fenerbahce's interest in Jadon Sancho. They hadn't, it's just an interest for now. Um, Fenerbahce is still potentially interested in trying to convince him if he doesn't go to Juventus, and so they're keeping tabs on the situation. There's been nothing more than that, but he did say his agent is in Italy today, so that's actually meaningful. Let's see if anything comes out tonight about that. Maybe this is moving forward on that front as well. So or that his agent specifically in Turin to talk with Juventus. So not just Italy, but specifically talking with Juventus, and that's really what we need. So that's a yeah. I mean, if we get this bid in and it actually comes in, then we'll have to. Then we should definitely accept it almost immediately. Yeah, I saw a report from Portugal talking about Morten Hilman. I would love Hilman. I wanted us to sign Hilman last year. He's I think the best of the group of midfielders that Ruben Amorim had at Sporting. He's not the fastest. I would have some concerns with him. Like I would consider his matchup with Bruno to be a little difficult at times, but yeah, I do really like him. Are we getting Mbeumo on the tour in your opinion? In my opinion, no. And that's simply because as of today, it's not done. So you're talking tea leaves now. You know what I mean? You're talking tea leaves at this point. So I can only guess. The reality is, as of today, the deal isn't done. So then, why? So do I think it'll be done in 5 days? No, because there's no evidence to suggest it will be. You know what I mean? Even though we want it to be. So it's like, so I don't think it'll be done by the tour. And I think that sucks. And I think that that's not great. And if you're not going to get, not getting anybody else in for the tour, I think is definitely that aspect is a failure. That aspect is a failure. They should be somebody else coming in for the tour. Obviously, it's not an exact deadline. It's like, technically, someone could go join us next week, Friday, Saturday. It doesn't really matter. They could come join. It's not like they can't. It's not like they have to be there on the 22nd. I do believe we will have a signing before the end of the tour. It's just how soon towards the beginning to the middle to the end. So it is what it is. It's not great. It's not great. To me, I think because it's not great because you intended to do better, you would hope to do better, you needed to do better, and you didn't. It's how impactful it actually is on the season as a whole is not that much. I think it's somewhat over dramatized. If you get players in before the tour, it helps you. If you get players in mid tour, okay. If you get players in later, whatever. I mean, it makes a difference in the very short term. It doesn't make much of a difference in the long term. I think it affects, when you get the players in, probably affects your first 3 or 4 games, which, to be fair, we can't afford to drop points in. But in the long term, it doesn't mean that much, frankly. We did plenty of late deals under Sir Alex, and even back then, we didn't necessarily have a lot of players in early, unfortunately. And we had plenty of good seasons at the same time. Plenty of those players hit the ground running, especially when they came from the Premier League. I'll say, like, for example, Harry Maguire, when we signed him from the Premier League, he came in pretty late. He stepped in, was really good right from the off, for his perspective. God, we have not signed that many Premier League players. So again, I don't view things as black and white. To me, it's a less good thing. As long as you get the player, it's a win. As long as you get them, it's great. You're signing them, you have 5 years, in the long term, it's good, but it's less good. You're definitely losing. You're definitely giving yourself difficulties the later you sign players in the start of the season. Signed Berbatov on the 31st of August. Yeah, exactly. It's one of the examples. There's quite a few others like that. I believe, given the circumstances, it should be more important to get players in early this summer. And on that side of it, I think that it's a bummer, and it could hurt us. And and it could lose us points in the beginning of the season if we're not getting players in, and that's not good. So, in that respect, I think it's not great. As long as we get them before the season starts, I'm not gonna be like pissed. If Mbeumo arrives on the 31st of July, am I gonna be like, well, it sucks now, and it's gonna suck, and he's not gonna play well for us? No, he's gonna play well for us. He's gonna improve us, but he's not. It's not gonna be like absolutely devastating. I mean, I don't really get that. Like, if Mbeumo signs on the 31st of July, are you gonna sit there and say it's screwed, the season's over? No, of course not. I mean, that would be silly. That would be silly. It would be better if he arrived earlier, but nobody's gonna sit there and not nobody, because people will, and they'll be wrong about that. We sign Mbeumo on the 31st of July. It's not going to be like this thing where suddenly he's going to fail at United and he's not going to work and all of that kind of stuff. That's just not going to be the case. But the earlier, the better. The earlier gives us better chances. That is for sure as well. I mean, we've signed players in January, and getting them right. Yeah, exactly. Getting the right players is priority number one. Getting them in early is makes it better for sure. No doubt about that. Yeah. Oh, well, I know for a fact that the club does do business on tour, because I've been on the tour with the club and I've seen things and spoken to people. The idea that they don't do business on tour is not true. Maybe it was under Woodward and such, but no, that is not true. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's not true. I had discussions over very specific players, last summer, over what was happening with them, where I knew while I was sitting there in Los Angeles, that player is going to be sold very shortly. And I made videos on it as well. I made a video after having some conversations last year, after I got back to my hotel, and published it and said, hey, that player is going to be gone soon. They remained on the tour because it's just easier. And then as soon as we're back, the deal is finished and they go off to their club, or someone comes in or something like that. But that doesn't mean they're not doing work just because the deal, like, someone isn't being signed while they're that's not really the point. That's a matter of, sometimes that's just a matter of the difficulty and both clubs agreeing, like, is it worth a player leaving a preseason tour where at least they're training, getting fitness, doing all of that, to fly, to do all this shit, to not play for 3-4 days and then get back into training somebody else. But that doesn't particularly matter that much. I mean, it's only like 10 days anyway. It's not like it's a huge thing for a player to join up right afterwards or a player to leave right afterwards. I have concern FC. I am in concern FC. I'm concerned right this minute that we're not doing enough business. I'm concerned right now that we're not doing enough business. That doesn't mean I'm going to be like angry in general. But I am concerned about the state of things at this point in time. I think that things are not happening fast enough, and that we need more. Do we sit with the Glazers on tour? You think the Glazers go on tour? That's the funny part. Like, the Glazers don't go on tour, man. I mean, I think maybe they go to one of the games in New York or something here and there, but they don't go on tour. I've never seen them anyway. Do I think Rashford, Antony, Garnacho, and Sancho go on the tour? No. I think that they're pretty. I mean, we're going for a first game on Saturday. I'm pretty positive that by then, I mean, that's kind of the point, I think, of this whole separate thing, is that they're not going to come on the tour. Um, yeah, they don't care enough to travel around to all the different country, cities and things like that. Yeah, some of them showed up to the New Jersey game. Now, there is a New Jersey game again this time at MetLife. I would not be surprised if some of them go to that because I think a few of them live up there. So we'll see. We'll see because I'm trying to work out how to get to that one as well. So I guess we will see there. Have I dropped my standards? It's not dropping my standards. I'm never gonna. Well, I shouldn't say never. I'm rarely going to be the person getting stark raving mad over things. I think they should have got him in early. I think they should have had him by now. I'm concerned about it. I don't agree with it. They should have had at least 2 forwards in for preseason. That's my view. Now what? Like, I'm just not that person to get angry over, like, to be super mad and let it ruin my day. And I don't fake my emotions either. If I'm mad, you'll know I'm mad. If you go watch me after the Europa League final, I was mad. I was really mad. I was really, really, really mad. That was me mad. That whole week was me mad. That whole week was me frustrated. That whole week was me stressed. And then, yeah, I mean, if you want to see me mad, come join me for the watch longs. You will see mad. I do get mad during games. I do get angry during games. The thing about this is, like, I can't get that worked up discussing things that are so slowly moving and so, like, because I don't understand how you can. Like, if I was to be angry over this Mbeumo situation, all right, and like I was actually mad, I'd have to maintain madness for like weeks or bullshit it and fake being angry to make entertainment. Who can do that? I don't understand that. I cannot get mad about that. I can't stay being mad. That just doesn't work for me. It's not how it works. Something pisses me off, I get over it. I can be mad and then I'll get over it. When I watch games, I'll get mad because it's in the moment. Something happens, it triggers, I'm angry, I'm pissed off. I'll be pissed off for 30 to 45 minutes afterwards, maybe an hour afterwards, and then I move on. Can you do a poll, Smokey? Are you able to do a poll? Wait, what are you guys asking me to poll, by the way? I'm confused. By the way, like the stream. There's 1,200 of you here. Only 200 likes. Come on. At least 400. Come on now. What are you asking me to poll? Like, what do you want me to do? See a story from the Daily Mail and get angry? Like, what is that gonna do? And why? Like, half the time I know that it's all BS anyway. So it's like, well, what am I gonna get angry about? um, how to be angry? Oh, which one do you prefer? I mean, I like when we get into our discussions, and then I can be passionate about things. And I prefer being having things to talk about where I can speak passionately about things. But like, it's not necessarily anger. I mean, I think yesterday we had some passionate discussion. You know what I mean? We had some passionate discussion, and I enjoyed that. The clickbait, they're revealed. What was revealed? I mean, I get it. Like, here's the thing, right? There's not a ton to talk about. And so I think that if your full-time job is making content, I feel for you. Like right now, I need to do this. I like doing this. I enjoy talking about it every day, at least to have something to discuss with you guys. I work on finding out whatever I can. I enjoy it. It makes a little money, which will pay for hopefully things like the tour and all of that. But it's not my full-time job at the moment. I wish if someday that I'd be up at a point where it can be, that would be great. That would be really nice, but it's not at the moment. If I had to make content full time, I would really be struggling today. I would really, really be struggling today. And I'd have to do things like reaction farming, you know what I mean? And I'd have to be like, going through the angriest fan comments in my responses and things like that. Like, I could do videos like that. I could look at my YouTube comments from the last few days and go, look at what this guy said. I mean, you want to look at it, this is not stuff that I enjoy. It's it's not a lot of fun to me. Like, people have lost their minds, in my opinion. Some of the things people say is crazy. When you go look through the comments. It's pretty funny. But why would I do that? That to me, that's not why I do this. I try to leave the negatives and avoid all of that. I mean, if you want negative news, if you want to be angry, what's the difference then? You can go turn on CNN or Fox or whatever the equivalents are over in England. You know what I mean? I don't watch the fucking news for a reason. I don't talk politics for a reason. I don't do any of that. I don't get into all of that kind of stuff. I don't watch football to have another thing to replace the anger that I would have. Like, you like again, this is what a lot of people do, and I think it's ruining their lives. Is they watch news all day, every day. They watch CNN or Fox or whoever is on their side of the spectrum politically, and get angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier and more upset and more depressed and more pissed off. I don't want to contribute to that. That's shit. That is destroying our society. Why do we need that in football? Something that is supposed to be fun, something that is supposed to be enjoyable, something that is supposed to be like an escape from the shit that is difficult, that is stressful, that is painful. I don't want people to come to my videos and walk away angrier than when they started. I want people to come to and hang out with me and together walk away feeling better, happier, more relieved. That's just a philosophy, you know. It's hard enough. Um, you know, it's hard enough with United in general. It makes me angry plenty when we're watching games and things like that because I feel passionate about it. And but we don't need to add to that. I don't need to add to that. And here's the thing. Here's my point on that. The news can be bad. Things can be not great. That doesn't mean you have to stoke the flames and enrage people. There's a difference in all of that. You can still be like you can still talk about things that aren't great without making people like more pissed off, more angry, and making them more negative in life. I don't see the point in doing that. Um, that's I just don't see the point in that. So it's like I can sit there and say, hey, it's not great that we haven't gotten Mbeumo in. It's not great that he's not there before the tour. I wanted him. I hope he's in. This week I was really expecting and hoping that they would get it done, rather. But if it's not, I'm not going to sit there and try to make you angry for more interactions. That's just not what I'm going to do. So, that's just how I feel about things. It's never going to change in that way. When I was angry, I was angry. When I think things are really wrong, I will call out things that are really wrong. And it's like, that's all. I mean, I think most people who hang out here feel happy watching the videos, and that it's important to me. Answer Dino. What was the question? What did I miss? What was the question you guys are asking me? What's the question you were asking me? Because I missed it. What is this question? I like the power. I like the informative videos as well. I've done a lot of that. Like when we, for example, you take like January, when we were talking about we couldn't spend much money in January, and I said, all right, well, that's actually the truth. So we can be mad, or we can actually understand why. So I made a video on PR versus PSR to explain the actual finances of the situation so it can be understood. Because the thing that doesn't make sense to me and that I don't believe, ask if I fart during streams. Does anybody not fart like at all times? Like unless you're lying or you're purposefully backing yourself up, you know, you should be farting like most of the day, like every few minutes. If as long as like what, if you got a healthy system, then you're gonna be passing gas like all the time. Things should be moving through your body. Okay, so yes, the answer is yes. Many times, all the time, in fact. Um, Everybody does it. Like you should be doing 100 times a day. These are the serious questions we're asking. um, oh man, where was I? I completely lost my train of thought. Um, if a Watkins Garnacho swap happens, can we just swap whenever if I ever use the word swap, I want to make very, very clear. If I say the word swap, I mean a sale both directions. All right, a sale in both directions. Somebody sells one, somebody sells the other. So anytime I use the word swap, I don't actually mean swaps because swaps don't really happen. 99% of swaps are sell and sell both one way or another. I lost the ability to be embarrassed about things like that years ago, and I recommend the same for everybody. It's very freeing. No, but what I remember what I was saying. I was saying this, and this is the reality of it. Okay, there's two ways of thinking about things. One is that do you think like people are intentionally doing things that are harmful? When I look at this football club today, do I think that anybody is in there who's working in there on a regular basis, actively trying to slow down business, mess up deals, and screw the club up? No, I don't think so. When you take other subjects, other parts of life, that's probably true. There are people who are actively trying to do things that are destructive on purpose. That is what they're trying to do. You think Sancho is, well, fair enough. That's not really who I'm talking about, right? I think that most people there have that are there right now have the best of intentions, and they're trying to get things done. That hasn't always been the case. There's been a lot of people, at times at the club that I feel are just, there for the paycheck, or, as we saw with, with the Glazers and how they were running things, they had no interest in actually making the club successful. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, guys. They had no interest in actually making the club successful. They only had interest in enriching themselves. Anybody who believes that about the people there presently is just purely wrong. I don't have any other answer to you to say but that, but you are just purely wrong. There is nobody there trying to enrich themselves. Jim Ratcliffe's going to be dead by the time the stadium is built and this club is good again. Okay, that's just the truth of the matter. He's an older guy. I mean, he's quite healthy, but he's talking about a legacy. We're talking about a legacy, an individual that he's never going to like make money out of this. It has to be a legacy, and at least the benefit of a legacy is that somebody usually wants something that is lasting and is successful. That's one of the positives. It's actually a decent, at least it's a somewhat honest intention of what someone is trying to do. He's not trying to flip Manchester United. It's just not. He's not trying to get rich out of United. He's not trying to take money out of United. He will never take money out of United. That's just the truth. So I look at that, okay, well, that's him. The people he's hired, Omar Barada, he's not trying to destroy United. Wilcox is not trying to destroy United. They are professionals who've worked in the business for a long time. And they don't particularly care, they're just trying to do the best job that they can. So they'll either do it, a good job, or they won't. But their intentions will be good, and they'll be doing things for the right reasons.
Sancho news.
Was there new Sancho news? I'll check on that in 1 second. So point being, I don't get, I'm not going to sit there and rant and rave. Okay, this is good. Let's pull this up. Because I believe people are trying to do the right things. If they're making mistakes, then we'll talk about those mistakes. Like when they kept Ten Hag, that was a mistake, an error, something that they messed up. I think they did it to destroy the club? No. I think they did it because they weren't prepared and they didn't know what else to do at that point in time. But hey, let's take a look. Sancho's getting closer. Positive contacts this evening with the agent and with Manchester United. That's big. So his agent is in England, or in Turin, and positive contacts. He also says they're looking at Rashford, but that's pretty basic, so we'll see. Now, I could see it. If they could shift Vlahovic, then getting someone like Rashford to come play down the middle is probably something they'd be interested in. As a striker, I think that would be something of interest to them. So I wouldn't totally write that off, but that one's probably a ways away from happening. But yeah, Jadon Sancho's moving closer to United. Let me see. There's a full article. I just want to see if there's anything else in there. Positive talks with player's agent this evening. It repeats it twice, but it says specifically it remains alive, especially with the potential sale of Nico Gonzalez. All right. I mean, something needs to get done here, man. Something needs to get done on that, for sure. Come on now. That'll be big. That would be big, because if we can get Sancho out the door, then I think regardless of whether we can get... I've said this so many times. I wish there was something a little more concrete on Sancho at this point in time. I don't think he's BSing, but at the same time, there's just been... We need something a little more solid to feel good about it. But if we can buy a striker or another player, regardless of what happens with Garnacho, that would help us quite a lot. Too. But the thing is, it was well reported that his agent's in Turin. So I'm a little more inclined to believe this report is right.
Mark Goldbridge wanted ETH to stay after FA Cup.
Well, plenty of people did. Most of the fan base, in fact. So should we say that most of the fan base are the enemy of the club, are, trying to destroy the club? I mean, to a degree, yeah. Sometimes with people's opinions they are, but their intentions are not. Should we call fans evil because a lot of the times fans' opinions are bad and would be something that lead to the club getting worse? Because we've done a lot of stuff fans have wanted, and a lot of times it's been a terrible decision. That's okay. If you wanted him to stay and it was the wrong choice, that doesn't make you weren't doing it because you wanted the club to be in ruins, I think. Were you? If you wanted Ten Hag to stay, were you trying to destroy Manchester United? No, of course not. Most of you did, probably. At least I would say a majority of the people in here wanted that. But but so be it. It's like Yeah. You think ultimately the biggest failure of Ten Hag was his recruitment? 100%. 100%. You know, we all get things wrong. We all get things wrong, every one of us. But it doesn't mean that our intentions are bad. I definitely wanted a different manager. I was really high on Thomas Frank. I was so high on Thomas Frank. I was so high on Thomas Frank at that point in time. I was so keen on us getting Thomas Frank, and I liked McKenna as an idea as well, but I really, really liked the idea of Thomas Frank. I still think Thomas Frank's a top manager. It's too bad that he went to Spurs, but yeah, would have been nice. Would have been nice. Would have been nice at that time. But I do love Eminem. You know, one of the things that go good God. One of the things that some people have asked, and I think is interesting. Damn, hold on. I just need to fix something so that I can. All right, there we go. One of the things someone described this really well, and because I've seen a lot of this critique, like, because people will say, like, I've seen this critique really often, and I get this opinion. I totally get this opinion. I really do. Which was it's basically like, it's basically like, you know, why did they pick Ruben Amorim for his system that needs a whole bunch of change, and we can't turn over the squad this summer, you know, where we could sign 5-8 people. And I've said before that I think it's not necessarily the correct take. So, but one of my favorite people, and that helps in the Discord and things like that, said this as an answer, which was much more eloquently than I can answer it. He said, I don't think they picked Amorim for a system per se. I think they chose him partly because of his character and track record of tearing down and building up toxic and ill-disciplined teams. The squad needs tearing down, revamping, and it needs to be in scaffolding a long time. That means it needs to be being rebuilt for a while. He says, I'll be judging Amorim on fitness and durability of the squad, number one. Number two, mentality. Can they not crumble after every minor inconvenience? Number three, can he make us score more goals? And then number four, winning in league position. And I thought that was a much more eloquent way of answering that concern than I have mentioned in the past as well. Why was Ruben Amorim hired? Well, in large part because of what he did at Sporting, and probably less to do. I think people think with the systems because we're in an era of football fandom where we're always talking about tactics, and everybody wants to talk about tactics and systems and things, and that's fair too. But that's probably secondary to them saying we don't have a system. We don't have a system at United. We don't have anything at United, so let's get a manager who has a system. Fair enough. But let's get somebody who will tear down and rebuild this club, and who's gone through that and has that experience, and who has dealt with a toxic environment, who has dealt with a toxic culture, who has rebuilt that in the past, who is willing to do that, who understands that aspect, and wants to and will kind of work through it, like he said when he first joined. I think his quotes become pretty clear when he's talking about that. That he says, he said when he first joined, we're going to suffer, like right off the bat, even when we were winning. In our first couple games where we were kind of winning, and he said, we are going to suffer. We're going to, it's going to be rough. It's going to be bad. We have to do these things now, or we'll be in the same boat in a year from now. He did say that when we were actually winning games in the beginning, and then things got really bad. So I think that becomes really clear what he is intending to do there, and what he wants to do. So, and what was necessary as well in order to fix that. Again, came mid-season, the club's toxic. We got turned down last summer by plenty of other coaches. So it was like, who's willing to deal with what is actually necessary to return United? And I think that's, essentially all of that. So yeah, I think it makes sense why, it gives a better understanding of why we hired him in particular. Um, and that probably means a lot more, you know what I mean? As to what they're going to judge him on, and also what he needs to be good at. And there was no world, right, in general, where we were turning over 8 to 10 players this summer. It was just never going to happen, right? That was just not the case. It was just never going to be the case. So we were never going to turn over the squad enough for any manager in one summer. We need to do more than we've done today. But I do also very much agree with and believe the primary focus of Ruben Amorim when being hired and why he was selected was because of who he is, what he's done, and what is necessary at United more than exactly the system and the players. That's got to happen, but that's got to come. That builds on top of a good culture. That builds on top of a good atmosphere. That builds on top of a good environment. That builds on top of a lot of those things, which we all know and have agreed for years has been so toxic, has been a horrid sludge of an environment. So that makes sense to me. That I'm okay with. That is all. Okay, so he did an article on Rashford. Let's see. Sorry, just tired. Doesn't say anything. Just lists some stats. It says they've made an inquiry today. Doesn't say anything in detail. Okay, well, let's leave it here because I think that's all we're gonna get this evening. And kind of discussed everything. United have been kind of opening up the chats, I suppose, when it comes to potential swap deals for strikers, and are exploring different moves and things there. Um, they're exploring different moves and things there on the striker front now, including moves that might swap Garnacho. Watkins and Jackson of interest. Nkunku is one they're pretty cool on, so I don't think that there's much risk of us getting Nkunku as that player. So yeah, that there on the Mbeumo situation, I think that's why we're willing to wait. That they have pivoted over to still to exploring and making clubs, not in just exploring, but actually, probably having a few conversations when it comes to the striker front. So, we'll see if Mbeumo and his side can get things nailed down so we can get that deal done, or if we move quicker on the striker front here. If one of these outs happen, Sancho, in the next couple of days, that'll help us on the striker front probably more than the Mbeumo front, because it's more a matter of we need them to settle. But with the sell-ons that we've made, if we also get just Sancho out plus those sell-ons, we could probably get a striker done with or without selling Garnacho. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully that happens there. Yeah, I know we've everybody's kind of forgotten about Cunha, but he's an incredible player. I'm very excited to watch him. All right, guys. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna end it here. I hope you've enjoyed your Wednesday. I hope you've enjoyed the video, the stream, hanging out together. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with some updates of substance. Either way, one way or another, and then Friday we'll be talking about what team are we picking for Saturday, and we'll be doing our first predicted lineup for the first preseason game. See what we're gonna do.